Well, thank you very much for coming to watch my presentation. My name is Takeru Hatachi. I'm a PhD student at the Graduate School of Information Science of Arts at the university. Now, I want to present cross analysis of psychological characteristics in elite level rugby players who belong to the company. I'm sorry. The performance level of Japanese rugby is getting better. Japanese rugby had only one win and two draws in the World Cup history before 2015, but the Japan national team beat the Republic of South Africa in 2015. It was a huge win, but they couldn't advance to tournament. But as you know, 2019 we had World Cup in Japan, and we had great competition during the World Cup, and we advanced to a tournament this time. So Japan national rugby team showed the level of Japanese rugby is getting better. Their performance getting better to out. They showed it outside of Japan and inside of Japan as well. But the environment around the elite rugby play in Japan vary and depend on the team to which they belong. There are teams which are mainly comprised of professional players, but there are also teams which are comprised of both professional players and the players who belong to the company, which means they are working. It is very important to team comprised of players who are working for the company to improve their performance efficiently, especially then when they need to compete against professional players, mainly comprised team. So psychological aspect has a big role to improve it, as previous studies showed. Therefore, knowing and assessing psychological tendency is very essential for their improvement of performance. So the purpose of this study is to clear their psychological characteristics by comparing elite rugby players who belonging to the company. I will mention later, but these participants, all of the participants working the full-time job for 8 hours. Then at night they are training and they have to compete against the professional team. So it's very important for them how they can train efficiency, and psychology, as I said, psychological aspect will have big role. So based on this assessment, making a plan to improve the psychological ability for the future, and it should be linking to how we coach athletes, and it is very important as well. And another purpose of this study is contribution to the sustainable development goals by analyzing data of the players who are belonging to the company. Analyzing and assessing mental ability of players who are belonging to the company also can help to keep balance between work and life. So that means they can, they can keep the good health and well-being, and also it might lead to the decent work or career if they can transfer their ability of psychological stuff, and it might be linking to the economic growth as well. So for the participants, we had 32 male elite rugby player, and all of them belonging to team in Japan top league, top challenge league, and also they are belonging to the company. And then, like as I said, they are working 8 hours in a day, and then at night they are training. So then I categorized players into these three categories. The one is member, two is reserve members, three is non-members. Members they play the official games as past 15, and reserve member who play the official game, but they are not first 15. They are on the bench first, and then they get to play in the game later. And then non-members, who did not play official game at all. they may play training match game, but they didn't play official match at all. And then I use four psychological tests to assess analyzing their psychological ability. One is a diagnostic inventory of psychological compatibility for athletes, abbreviation with DIPCA 3, we call it DIPCA 3. This assessment tool for athletes and then developed by Tokunaga, and there's a 5-factor, and also as lower scale, there's 12 lower scale there, and less than 12 point in light scale, and in if they are less than 12-point light scale, we had to eliminate those players from the study. But fortunately, we didn't have to eliminate players at all in this study. Well, this DIPC 3 has been using for a lot of sports. And then for the rugby team, for example, and at all used this test and surveyed college athlete and reported the athlete who are more talented show higher psychological competitive ability. That means if they have higher psychological competitive ability, they may have more talent or more higher level athlete. And then another thing, when we're looking at resilience ability in these players, this is created and developed by Skemune and Hugh. And then there's research by Hugh said individuals can tolerate difficult situations and develop their ability of resilience as long as the environment which facilitate health exists. It has not been clear if the resilience is an ability which we can develop, or if it is an ability with its own characteristics which we have inside of us. And this test has 2 parts, and in part 1 there are 27 questions, and the part 2 has 8 questions. In this study, I used part 1 because we can calculate the total points. So part 1 has 3 factors such as social support, self-efficacy, and sociality. And then each question is measured using a 5-point scale ranging from 1 to 5, and summation of all those scores for each factor creates 135. So 94 points less is low, and 95 to 107 is normal, and 108 point high is high in the resilience. The third test is athletic coping skill inventory, created in 1988 and developed by Smith et al. Then this has subscale and a 7 spot specific one. One is coping with adversity, 2 is peaking under pressure, the goal setting, so concentration and freedom from worry, confidence and achievement motivation, and 7 is coachability. And in this survey, there are 28 questions, and using a 4-point Likert scale range from 0 to 3, and a score for each subscale can range from 0 to 12. Summation of all score for each skill creates value ranging 0 to 84, then higher score are indicated of higher ability of competing for sports. Then also the last one, fourth one, is mental toughness index. It's developed by Kushardi et al. And 8-item scale. And this is a unidimensional assessment of mental toughness for athlete. Athlete answer to item on Likert scale ranging from 1 to 7. Then obviously this, if they have higher score or index here, they have more higher in the mental toughness. And if you think about psychological performance, physical performance, if checking this psychological strengths, which is such as mental toughness, resilience, coping, and also competitive ability of psychological mean the difficult three. But we could see that their physical performance is high or not. Then if they have physical good performance, they should. Previous study said it's influence physical performance as well. Psychological performance to physical performance. And if they have good physical performance, they should be able to good athletic performance on the field, and then should be able to contribute to the team. That means, as I said, psychological performance is a big role to do good athletic performance. Then it should be a contribute to team. When we looking at the result, before the result, actually, I had to set the criteria because the participants are only 32 players and it is very small. I didn't want to. I know I wanted to have kind of even athlete, or I didn't have like a too small sample or too big sample in the clusters, each clusters to compare or analyze the data. So I set the criteria for the number of sample in each cluster. So they had to be the 7 or more and less than 14. And then when we're looking at the clusters, average linkage method between groups and also average linkage method within group and the word method met the criteria. So especially like if you're looking at these numbers, word method and average linkage method between group are the same. And I look at the member who consists of the clusters, it was exactly same. So I picked up the word method to analyze the data. Then analyzing data here, cluster 1 is higher than cluster 2 and 3 in resilience and mental toughness. And the cluster 1 and 2 is higher than cluster 3 in difficult 3 and coping. Which means, this result shows cluster 1 is higher than cluster 2 and 3 in psychological talents such as resilience, coping, and mental toughness, and also psychological competitive ability. And the cluster 2 is higher than cluster 3 in coping ability and psychological competitive ability, which means cluster 3 is lower in everything than others. Yeah. So previous study by Hattach, actually I did the previous study when I compared the member, non-member, or reserve member in the competitive ability. The decision making and strategic ability were very important factor to be member or reserve member on elite rugby team, and they have more total points. So the ratio of non-member was higher than 40% in class 3. That might be influence. The cluster 3 was lower in deep cut 3. Here, this is lower. That might be because usually like a lower level, lower level athletes show the lower deep cut 3. That might be influencing here as well. So. And then on the other hand, if we're looking at the reserve member ratio of the reserve member, more than 40% in the cluster 1 and close to 40% in cluster 2. So reserve member at more than 40% may have higher psychological talents. So Sugiura and Miyuchi's study, especially Sugiura's study, motivation for participants in sports is very important in developing psychological maturation, and it is developed by facing to critical moment. Even Miyuchi said playing under pressure improves their psychological tolerance, such as stress tolerance. So, reserved members' condition might be meeting this criteria stuff, you know. Because reserve member has more motivation in participating in sports because they want to be higher level, as a stat member, and also, and then they have some critical moment, competing like lower level, like which mean like a non-member, and then also like they have to compete against members. So each time they are under the pressure as well. So playing under pressure, improving their psychological tolerance, such as stress tolerance, say according to the Milch said. So reserve member has better chance to improve their psychological tolerance. But compared to them, like member might be satisfied with their situation or status on the team unless they are thirsty to win. So they may not have enough chance to get or improve developing psychological maturation and develop by facing to developing it. So and then also a non-member has a little bit probably difficulty to see their goal to be studying member. As I said, lower level player has lower difficulty 3, even like last one showed it. And then also, skill wise, they have to improve a lot to get to this level of, such as a studying member. So, it may not have as much as a good motivation of participation of sports, so that means like they may not have a good chance to in developing psychological maturation enough and develop by facing to critical moment either. And then also like may have less pressure when they play, so they may not have a good chance to improve their psychological tolerance. So that might be influencing this result. Anyway, the conclusion, this study showed cluster which was more reserve member has a higher psychological tolerance, and the cluster whose ratio of non-member was more than 40% showed significantly lower in difficult 3. And to really improve this, the coach can change their approach depending on clustering or player, approaching to their level. Coach, approaching to the, depending on the competition level, probably like coach can improve non-member by approaching to the psychological compatibility and the psychological tolerance. And then in other side, improve reserve member, coach need to improve their non-physical skills such as physical skill or rugby skills because they tended to be high in psychological ability. By clustering, giving like another approach to improve a performance member, especially for the cluster 3 by coaching decision making and strategic ability at first. And then also in cluster 3, there's a member, studying member as well. So they may need to improve other difficult 3 or other stuff too. So they probably the coach can approach the player by differently, like not just only level, but also like, by clustering, they can do a different approach. And they keep it in the balance work and life by improving this kind of ability. We might be able to contribute the goal of health and decent work and economic growth as well. And then this further research participants from multiple teams will need to be studied for improving vitality because this is only one team participated in. So that might be like the next step I have to do. Well, if you have any question, please give me email. Thank you very much for watching and listening to my presentation.